Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 news video. So, Bethesda had their annual QuakeCon event last night. We got a whole bunch of information about various games, but the big thing for Fallout 76 fans, obviously, is we now have a release date for the next update, the Pitt and the Expeditions, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff, Season 10, and what's coming afterwards we've got a little bit of information about as well. So, let's dive into all of this. Okay, so yeah, QuakeCon yesterday, obviously not in person again yet, but hopefully next year, so it was a live-streamed event. If you want to catch up on that, see all the various bits and pieces, there was a whole load of very interesting stuff in there, and a lot of fun stuff going on as well as raising a bit of money for charity, so if you do want to check that out, head over to where you can catch up individual panels on Bethesda's YouTube channel, or you can watch the whole thing as a VOD on their Twitch channel, so do check those out. Definitely worth a look, there's some good cool stuff in there, as well as a whole chunk of news about a whole lot of stuff. So, 76. First bit of big news, obviously. Not too surprising given how close it is, but we finally have a release date for the Pitt, which also gives us a release date for the next season and a date for the end of the current one. So, kicking it off with that one, the release date is Tuesday the 13th of September. So, what's that, 3-4 weeks from now? 3.5 weeks? Yeah, 3.5 weeks. So that's about expected. It's the second Tuesday in September, roughly where I thought it would be, which is cool. I've been saying September for a while. Nice to have that launch date. So yeah, the Pit and everything included with that, all of the background stuff that comes alongside the major update, the inevitable raft of bug fixes that will come with it as well, always welcome. And of course it means the end of Season 9, the current season we're working through, and the start of Season 10, which will also be on the same day, the 13th of September. So that's how long you've got to get through the current season as well, and make sure you pick up any rewards from that as well, because once it changes over, you won't be able to access the old scoreboard, so you don't want to miss out on the things you've earned. So yeah, very cool. Got that release date. Really happy about that. Had a look at the Pit a few times so far. It looks very, very cool. I'm looking forward to getting in and playing with that. I know there's been some chatter about out there on the internet as to whether or not it's kind of glorified daily ops. I wouldn't say so. I think that's probably selling it short. Both are repeatable content, so in that regard, yeah, there's a similarity. It's endgame content, so another similarity. But the Pit has much more sort of replayability variety, I think, at the moment anyway. It's a lot longer, it's a bigger chunk of stuff, and it has an impact both inside the game and does the most profound thing it does of all, which is take us outside the existing game world. So it's probably worth bearing in mind this update on the 13th of September is probably going to be a chunky one. Expect a large update file, so probably doesn't hurt to have that in the back of your mind with that coming up. So, quick overview of the Pit and stuff. If you are not aware, the responders have been reborn. There's a new group of people carrying the torch for them. They've set up at the White Spring, which is getting quite sizably changed. The interior of it will be divided into two areas now. There'll be the main shopping mall area where all of the robot vendors are. That's going to kind of stay as is. It'll be its own public area. Then the rest of the hotel will be separated out. It will be an individual instance that you will either be on your own in, or people who are in a team with you can join you. Otherwise, that's kind of your instance, much like, say, Inside the Wayward or anything like that. And that's focused on the expeditions, the new responders. It's the White Spring Refuge. It's getting a massive overhaul up there. And it's quite cool. It's nice to see that space actually being used. Before, it was pretty much unused, so that's quite nice to see. And we've got a whole raft of new characters, new things to do in there. And it is the foundation for the expeditions. So we'll have to do 3 daily missions there per day, obviously, in order to launch an expedition, which you will be able to do yourself once per day, although you'll be able to join other people on their expeditions as often as you like. And there are 2 different expeditions at launch. One is called Union Dues, the other is From Ashes to Fire. So 2 separate missions, 2 separate locations within the Pit. They're essentially unique zones, unique maps, with sub-locations as well within those. And you will head out there, get a range of different objectives. There are a few set ones, but there are also a bunch that will cycle through. There's a pool of possible objectives, some of which will be picked, and it will change each time you do it to give it more replayability, which is cool. If you want to see a bit more in detail, get a good look at this, I've got a whole bunch of videos on it, so you can see the PTS content. I will link that up in the top right corner, and I will put links to it down in the description as well if you want to check it out. So looking a bit further on down the line regarding the Pit, we get a bit of information about the future of expeditions after the initial launch, which is early days on that one, but there are already well underway additional missions that are going to be added to expeditions in the Pit. So new zones, new challenges, new sort of mini locations and a larger location, and basically more areas to go, more things to do. Those are coming up in the future. Likely guess for that, probably sometime next year. I'm going to guess the second half of next year, maybe even this time next year. I think that's probably when we'll see the next major update, because unlike a lot of stuff, we're going elsewhere. It involves building whole new locations from the ground up, putting objectives and characters and so on and so forth in there. A lot of the groundwork will be laid already, because this will be also in the pit, just a different bit of it. So they're not starting from scratch here, but nonetheless, it's a big chunky piece of update when it arrives, so there'll be a bit of a wait on that. It'll take them a while to put that together. But we have confirmation that those things are coming on down the line. Probably the first lot of that will be next year, I would expect. But there is a continuing plan to add more to the pit, which is really, really cool. Looking forward to seeing that too. Nice to see that this will be a growing piece of content over time. And looking further ahead, in very cool news, they have entered pre-production, we got confirmation last night, on new locations other than the pit. So obviously Pittsburgh, the pit, that's one area, and we're visiting sub-locations of that, zones within the larger city for each mission. There will be other expeditions going to entirely new places. We don't know where yet, but that's in pre-production, and therefore that's going to take longer, obviously, as they'll have to do more of it. They'll need background, they'll need lore, they'll need factions, they'll need a reason to be going there, so on and so forth. We've already got the faction involvement as your reason to go to the pit. Something of that caliber likeness will be required for this new location as well, so a bit more to go on there. So my guess for when that happens, especially if it's only in pre-production now, is likely probably not before 2024. But don't worry, there is a whole bunch of other stuff coming up in the interim as well, including the new stuff for the pit later on down the line, but a whole bundle of other content coming as well. So one of the other things that's coming with this update is there is a recruitment bundle, a new launch bundle that you can pick up if you would like to. If you're picking up the game newly, then you can pick that up alongside purchasing the game if you're new to it, so that's an option. If you don't do that, you'll still get options of going to the pit. That's not going to be locked off in any way. It's just a bunch of cosmetics that you sort of get separately. Or if you already have the game, obviously you can buy that cosmetic pack separately, so you should be able to see that up on the screen around about now. Got a Fanatic paint for 10mm SMG. We've got a new power armor that looks pretty cool, very, very industrial vibe, the Fanatic power armor. So that'll be an option to get again from this pack as well. There's a Trog plushie, gotta love those plushies. There's an entire new Pittsburgh neighborhood camp kit on there, which looks very similar to one we have already, but with a few subtle differences. The windows are a bit different. There's some sort of railings over the windows there as well, new roof set on there. I'm guessing the colour tone of the brickwork is a little bit different to the other brick sets that we have already. We've got 2 in the game already. But if that sort of thing interests you, and assuming the price is suitable in relation to the value you're getting out of the package, that's maybe something to consider. I think I may well pick it up. We'll see. I'll have to have a think, because it looks interesting, this, but we'll have to see the value of the overall package. But there's also a fusion core recharger. Now that also has my attention quite a lot, because particularly if you, like me, use Electric Absorption legendary perk, you can sometimes find, well, that does recharge your power armor fusion core, but it'll also do it for other types of fusion cores as well, which is good, but it also means that sometimes you wind up with a bunch of partially depleted fusion cores just sat in your inventory, which can get heavy and messy. So just purely from a point of view of being able to tidy up your inventory, that fusion core recharger might be a really nice thing. We'll have to see if it works for, say, Ultrasight fusion cores or just for the base ones, who knows. We'll find out on down the line, I guess, once 13th of September rolls around, unless they tell us beforehand. But that potentially could be very, very cool and a very handy thing to have in your camp if you're using, say, Gatling lasers, Ultrasight Gatling lasers, or a lot of power armor. That in particular might be very, very handy, so definitely interested to find out more about that. That is an additional bundle of stuff you'll be able to pick up alongside the arrival of the pit. The main, obviously, update will be free, as always, with Fallout 76. This is just something extra you can get if you want. So Season 10 will also be arriving alongside this. That's going to be the next scoreboard and all that stuff. Don't know too much about the scoreboard itself, but the general theme with the rewards, unsurprisingly, is going to be related to the pit. We'll get a lot of pit-styled bits and pieces in there. We'll get the same usual stuff as well, the currencies, the consumables, things like that spread throughout the board. And alongside that, obviously, we'll get things like outfits and skins and power armor paints, stuff like that, camp stuff too, and it's going to have a heavy pit theme. But it'll be interesting to see what the ins and outs of that are when we get a bit closer to the time. We should get a full look at the scoreboard eventually and the rewards, probably in early September. So that will be launching, as I say, on the 13th as well. So ahead of that, need to make sure the current season is done and dusted if you would care to. So one other thing we know is coming along there that looks like it probably will be a season reward that is attached to it. We don't know a lot about the season rewards yet, but it does look like one of those rewards will be the Pittsburgh Palace Camp Prefab, which from the look of things, if I remember rightly from data mines, things like that, is going to be somewhat comparable to, say, the makeshift Mega Mansion, which is built out of shipping containers and trailers. This one's got more of a construction vibe, and I think it uses buses instead of, say, trailers and caravans, stuff like that. So it'll be an interesting vibe. It'll be a large prefab structure that you can drop into your camp and then sort of work out from if you would like to. Looking forward to seeing more about that. I suspect that's going to be a season reward. It looks like it probably will be. But beyond that, looking forward to seeing what's in that season as well. It should be quite cool. We're also going to get our first new shelter in quite a while alongside this update. As per usual, I imagine it'll be Atomic Shop and you have to buy it if you want it. But it's got a cityscape theme, which is very different to what we've seen before. So far, we've had vaults and vault rooms and various themes on that. And we've also had a couple of sort of cave underground things like that, and the missile silo as well. A cityscape sounds like it could be profoundly different in its appearance. I don't know what that might look like, so I'm very, very curious as to how they're going to do that. Having it as an internal space makes sense, but a cityscape sounds like an outside space. So how exactly they're going to kind of reconcile those two things when it's an instanced area that you enter via a door is an interesting question. I'm curious about that. It's also supposedly the largest shelter they have released, made, etc. yet. So that's going to be quite interesting. I'm a little apprehensive about that particular claim. Not because I don't believe it, I absolutely do. Problem is, the bigger the shelter is in the past, the further away the budget tends to end up from being able to fill it. So if the budget's not big enough for you to be able to fill the shelter, you often end up with a lot of dead space in there. An incomplete-looking shelter. Depends what you do with it. Some people have done an amazing job of working with what's available. But if it's the biggest shelter yet, potentially that particular issue might rear its head again. So we'll have to wait and see. It sounds like it could be a very interesting concept for a shelter, and I'm looking forward to finding out more about it. But we'll have to see how that actually pans out. So the shelter system's been an interesting idea. Been a pretty cool idea, especially with fewer restrictions compared to regular camp building. But it has its own set of shortcomings as well, which I suppose is inevitable, but we'll have to see how this actually pans out. It's an interesting idea, so I look forward to finding out more about that come September as well. So, looking beyond the pit, further ahead, the next major update after it will be coming in December, and that's Nuka World on Tour. So we've heard little snippets here and there about it, but we don't know a whole lot right now. Obviously, between September and December, when it will likely launch, we will find out a lot more, I have no doubt, through the PTS and various other stuff, so obviously we'll cover that when the time comes. But that's being principally developed by Double 11, who are a third-party studio, an external studio, who are working with Bethesda on 76. They are a British studio. They're based in the northeast of England. And if you've been following any of them on Twitter, you may be aware, but they have been recruiting quite heavily, particularly to expand their team working on 76. So the amount they're doing is probably going to be swinging up quite a lot, which potentially bodes well for the future of 76 and the things that are coming on down the line. So that's very, very cool to see as well. But for Nuka World on Tour, we don't know a huge amount about it yet. It sounds like it may well be a seasonal event type thing, so it'll pop up, it'll be there for a while, and then it'll go away and come back again later. Maybe. This is somewhat unconfirmed at the moment. It could be a permanent thing, but it sounds, from the general description of it, like that will be the case. Again, wait and see, but that's my hunch. But there's a whole load of different bits and pieces and components. Obviously, there's a lot of Nuka-Cola themed stuff, which is a lot of fun. There's going to be loads of camp stuff, loads of consumables are going to be in there. There's going to be new machines and things like that to build in your camp as well, which look like it could be potentially fun. We'll have to see what the buffs and consumables and things like that we get as a result. There's been some little hints that there might be some very fun stuff coming in there, so curious to see about that. That's lined up for December. Season 11, when that rolls around, will also tie heavily into that. No surprises there, but that will arrive in December alongside that particular update as well. So, loads of features, loads of stuff coming with that one. A lot of it unannounced for now. We'll find out more in the coming months. One thing that was mentioned, in the context of community feedback actually by Mark Tucker, the design director, was a really cool feature for camp building that I'm interested to see more about, which apparently is lined up also to come alongside this Nuka World on Tour December update, and that is free camera in building mode. So the idea behind that being, a bit like photo mode, you can move your camera around somewhat, independently of your character. It'll be the same principle, but bigger, I'm guessing. So you'll be able to tuck your character out of the way when you're building, detach the camera from your character, and just move around and sort of operate the camera and put the camera in different places, so you won't have to have your character jumping around onto roofs and all manner of stuff like that. Hopefully to give you better angles and better flexibility when building. That's the idea. From the sound of things, Mark Tucker seemed pretty pleased with how it was going and pretty confident that it will be coming out in December, so this is a cool feature. As I say, it's an entirely community-suggested one, and it has come from that and they've built it up, so very, very cool to see that. Looking forward to seeing more about that, and that is scheduled to come with the Nuka World on Tour update, which again is lined up for December, so obviously 3-4 months down the line yet, but we'll have to see how that pans out, and it looks quite interesting. So, going beyond that, then we start to stare down the barrel of 2023 and next year's updates. As you can probably imagine, not vast amounts of information coming out here. They're going to play this close to the chest, because the further out you go, the more likelihood things are going to change and timing might change and stuff like that. We've long experience of knowing how that happens sometimes, but the few things we have said are quite cool about it. So, the big takeaway, I think, is obviously the year that we're having now, 2022, most of the stuff that we're getting is endgame content. This is fair enough. There's been long-term, there's been players requesting a big update to the end game, new stuff to do, more going on there, more life up to that end-game loop. And great to see that happening this year. Obviously, the cost of that, the flip side of that particular coin, is that less story content has come out, in that there has not been any this year. So the logical conclusion from that, I don't think it's a great leap, is that it's probably going to flip back the other way next year, and it will be dominated by story content with less endgame content. However, from the tone of what we were told here at QuakeCon, it looks like it's going to be a mixed bag on that. But we are supposed to be getting quest-type story-based content coming next year, which is about what we'd expect, so that's a big thing. We're also going to get daily ops updates, which are long overdue. It's probably been, I think we're coming up probably a year since the last update to daily ops now, and I know me for one, and I'm sure plenty of other people as well, have got through the entire reward system, stuff like that, and we'd like some more rewards, more stuff going on, some new stuff into daily ops, make it a bit fresher, give it a little bit of a refresh. That is lined up for sometime next year as well. That is definitely coming down the line. There's also going to be, alongside what I've already mentioned about camps, they've got a whole load of new updates and improvements and tweaks and stuff to the camp building system, alongside the stuff we'd expect, like new sets and stuff like that, building sets. So hopefully big new changes and positive updates coming to the camp building system next year as well, as been mentioned, which leads nicely into feature updates generally. So with feature updates, you're looking at things like, for example, legendary crafting, or the introduction of loadouts or legendary perks and stuff like that. That sort of mechanics-based feature update is also slated for next year. There will be some of those. So that gives us something cool to look forward to, and will definitely be interesting as well. Again, we've had some of that this year. We've also got a whole load of new public events that we've already had this year. We've got a load more coming later this year, and from the sound of things, probably more of those coming next year too. And obviously more expeditions content that we've already touched on as well, additions to the Pitt, and then subsequently probably even further out, new places other than the Pitt to go and visit as well. So getting further out and getting sort of less precise as you go, which is about what we'd expect. Obviously the further out you go, more possibility of things changing, and the less likely they are to confirm things, because they want to focus on updates that are nearer to the time. But lots and lots of stuff lined up for the next coming couple of years at least that have been sort of teased and vaguely mentioned here, which is really cool. So it's good to know that we've got this year, next year. Obviously, Mark Tucker's mentioned before, back earlier in the year, that they put a 5-year plan together for intended updates. The further out you go, the more vague that gets. Of course it does. But if they've got that in mind and the ball is rolling on numerous things, that's really a good sign for future content for 76. The game is going nowhere, apart from forward, of course. It will be around for a good long time yet, and my bet on that front is at least until the next Fallout game comes out, and possibly even beyond that, depending on the health and state of the game when that rolls around. But shorter term than that, looking ahead to the end of the decade, is maybe a little bit premature at this point. Then, yeah, we've got a lot of content updates coming, most likely in the usual 3-monthly schedule that we've had for the last couple of years. Will probably continue, but lots and lots of updates, feature updates, content updates, story updates, and additions to the endgame loop as well. Updates, refreshes, new content as well. So huge amounts of stuff lined up going forward, and a lot to look forward to. So there we go. Quite a long chat about the stuff that came out of the conversation at QuakeCon yesterday. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. As I say, a lot of it's bare bones, and this vague concept is coming on down the line. It's kind of what we'd expect. Their focus, as you can probably imagine, is on the update that's staring us right in the face in a few weeks. That being the Pitt. That's definitely cool. Looking forward to that update, getting stuck into it. New areas to explore, new things to do and add to the loop, more variety in your daily gameplay. And the replayability of it is decent. The environmental design and the layout and the place you're exploring is pretty cool, pretty unique. Reasonably tough, high-level endgame content. It's good fun. It's a very stark contrast to Appalachia a bit, so check out the videos that I'll link down in the description, top left corner as well, top right corner, sorry. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there, very, very different vibe. It's still 76, and you can tell it's 76, but a very, very different tone to it, which is really, really cool. So, lots of cool stuff, lots of good news. 13th of September for the next update, this Pitt update, which is really, really cool, just around the corner. About what we expected, nice to have that particular update. I'm looking forward to a lot of the cool stuff that is coming up as well. So, I hope you guys found that useful and informative. If you did, please do drop likes and subs. I very, very much appreciate it. Down below the video, as always, you can find my social media links, merch store, channel memberships, and all those other good bits and pieces and buttons and so on and so forth. If you are interested in hitting any of those, I very, very much appreciate the support. It massively helps out. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that. And of course, live streams are continuing with Fallout 76, and we're playing The Witcher 2 at the moment, which is good fun as well. So I hope you will join us for those. Looking forward to streaming some Expeditions content when that drops next month as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.